Here we go. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Lesson Known Classics. This is episode number 3158 and Doubleshot 3052. We have two miniseries that tie into the event Gang War. First we have is Luke Cage Gang War, which I find this to be interesting that of all these events Luke Cage is part of, and yet he doesn't have a miniseries or at least some kind of book dedicated to him. Doesn't it find that kind of weird that of all the books Luke Cage has had over the years, the only time I could think of that he's ever tied into any kind of major event was Secret Wars 2. That's probably was it, because 9 years all around we had his big book Cage, but it got canceled for any major crossovers happen. You would think, and here's the thing, this is the first ever mini-series tie-in for an event he's ever had. You would think an event like Devil's Reign, which came out a little over a year prior to this event coming out, that he would have had, because of a role in that, maybe he'd get his own spin-off book. Nope. Never did. I do at least preach the fact he was heavily featured on comics for over a year prior to this. Yes, so this book is basically by Rodney Barnes, one of not many books he's read in Marvel Comics. The only ongoing series that I know of he's ever written was Falcon. Yes. So basically with this book, this is the first Luke Cage title release since 2018. Yes, and since his last ongoing series he had got canceled on something. There was a digital first book released prior to this one, but physical wise, first one released since Luke Cage by David Walker got canceled at issue 170 because of low sales. Yep, that was simply the reason for it. So in this particular book, you see Luke Cage, who is the mayor of New York. He's been the mayor since the end of Devil's Reign. So he basically sees all the chaos going on. Of course, he's working with Spider-Man behind the scenes. So he goes out to try to help out, but the police stop him because he can't do any type of vigilante because it's illegal. Even though he's the mayor, he's like, nope, can't do anything. So he didn't go visit Dr. Bresser, I think his name is, the guy who gave him the Super Strong, gave him this outfit. Now, I don't know what people's reaction were when people saw this outfit. People thought, oh, he's Gimp Man. Not really. It makes him super strong. It's a weird design. He sees his hot wife later, Jessica Jones, where he's like, how's the suit? Like, oh, it looks good on your torso, your thighs, and your butt. I'm like, I read this dialogue, Rodney Barnes, where like, is Jessica Jones flirting with her husband? Yes, she is. So he recruits a team to help him to take on Alistair Smythe. You're thinking, wait a minute, Alistair Smythe is a Spider-Man villain. I thought he was dead. No, he actually came back thanks to Clone Conspiracy. So he has to inform with his best friend, Danny Rand, who's not Iron Fist anymore. Nope, that's due to Alyssa Wong doing the book, the new Iron Fist book that featured the swordsman, the Korean one. He, for some reason, was chosen to play Danny Rand for reasons that are completely unexplained. Like, oh, he's new Iron Fist. Okay, it felt completely random. He had that mini-series, a one-shot, nothing much done with him at all. Like, I tend to think that was probably something Marvel thinking, oh, because people thought that Iron Fist should be Asian, so replace Danny Rand with an Asian character. It was the complaint I heard about the Iron Fist TV show, like, why isn't he Asian? Because I'm like, do these people not know what Danny Rand looks like? He is a white guy dressed in this outfit he wears. Which, by the way, here's the weird thing. In the first season show, he never, ever puts on the outfit. Nope, never does. And of course, Cloak and Dagger work with them too. And they have Luke Cage with this outfit, storm into Alice Smythe's space. And then, after this, he takes to the office, goes back to the office, and then I'm reading this and I'm like, wait, is Rodney Barnes ripping off Onslaught for this? Because Alistair Smythe sends Spider Slayer robots to attack City Hall. Yes, the New York City Hall. He's like, you attack my base, so I attack yours. Now, I saw this again because I read it when it came out. I'm like, really, Rodney Barnes? You're ripping up something happening in Spider-Man in a tie-in for Onslaught? Because giant robot attacks a building during an event. Does that sound familiar to you? Sounds like the Spider-Man issue tying to Onslaught. We have the Sentinels attack the Daily Bugle. Excuse me. And Luke Cage is fighting him off. And the thing is, he thinks that possibly the police get arrested because basically he's doing vigilante stuff. And like, no. What you use is perfectly fine. And then later on, basically, the vigilante law was repealed. It's a good miniseries. I do get it. Writer did a great job with this book. You think basically like, oh, would the cops stop because he's black? No! Not at all. It's like, some people think that's probably the reason they would stop because of skin color. No, that is not the reason why. It's like, people get the wrong idea about certain things, and people think that is still the stigmata in the comics. Not really. I mean, the cops in New York are probably care less the fact the mayor is black. They probably don't freaking give a damn about that. So, I give that book a 9 out of 10. Next up we have is a book that a lot of people, when they saw this, like, really? He had a tie-in for this? Well, he did have a tie-in for Spider Island, so, and he was kind of involved with Shadowlands, so why not? We have Gang War, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Yes, it's a Shang-Chi book that continues from the Shang-Chi book by Gene Lung, even though it's not written by him. For some reason, we have Greg Pak write the book. I tend to wonder why they picked this writer. I mean, Greg Pak is a great writer. I love Greg Pak's writing, but why pick him? Why not pick the writer who wrote his solo book previously? Yes, this, by the way, is his first book since the end of his ongoing series. That, here's the thing. If the first one was just simply Shang-Chi for 5 issue limited series, and then it turned ongoing, lasted about 12, and then that got abruptly cut off, and then it got launched as a mini-series, and then had one shot, and I'm like, that was it? Yeah. And then we have this. Now, this book contains, now, by the way, the Luke Cage miniseries for Gang War, that was 5 issues, I think it was. This here is 3 issues. So Marvel's like, hey, why don't we include some other stuff, basically, that may have not been collected for? So, here's what's collected. Aside from the 3 issue miniseries, we have Shadowlands Spider-Man, which there's a reason why this is here, and Free Comic Book Day 2011 Spider-Man and Shang-Chi. Oh, and they go actually the first issue, Free Comic Book Day 2011, and the Shang-Chi first issue. Now, you read this. Now, this, of course, is after the ongoing series wrapped up. He's the Master of the Ten Rings, which they bring up in here. The other reason why he is the Master of the Ten Rings, because, here's the thing, the original Ten Rings that people, that hardcore comic fans know of, are the Ten Rings of the Mandarin, which have been destroyed. Yes, I believe they were destroyed during a storyline by Karen Gillian, and then, because of the Shang-Chi movie, that's why he has 10 rings, where it's like armbands. That's why it's called the 10 rings, because there's 10 rings that go on his arm. And something happens in this book that, I read this again, it's been a while since I read it. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, they took you the fact he's in charge of the 5 Weapon Society. That was an organization that was founded by his father, that he took over after his father's death for the 3rd time in comic history. Kaijio with Majiro on the artwork. So, basically, we start out where Spider-Man's taking control of a few different areas. The 5 Weapons Society has a tiny portion of, looks like Manhattan, at this point anyways. Of course, they have various areas controlled by Dimeback. Lady Yawn, who actually has played a role in this book. Yes, and after this, she popped up for a couple issues of Vengeance of Moon Knight. Because prior to this, she appeared in one issue of Moon Knight prior to this one. And then she appeared in this miniseries. Then she popped up in Vince Moon Knight and hasn't been seen since then. Man of Mask, the Enforcers, the Mandarin. Big Ben is an old character from the 70s that Marvel, that Zeb Wells is back in here. The Beetle, who's actually Janice, who is the daughter of Tombstone. Tombstone is actually in hospital throughout a lot of the story. There's Dimeback, the Owl, there's an area called the Heat, and the Rose. The Rose is, well, it is once again Richard Fisk after his resurrection, Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man books. So we started past basically with Shang-Chi, his father, like playing some chess, and we've got the present day where he is running the Weapon Society, and the whole gang war is operating. Now, here's the thing: the 5 Weapon Society have control of Chinatown. Everything's so peaceful, and then Lady Young herself shows up here. Yes, and she's a primary villain for this book. Now, here's the weird thing related to this: why in the world would Lady Young get involved with Shang-Chi? Because gang war, and I guess that the writers at Marvel Comics probably got a suggestion from Jen McKay. Hey, can you use my character in this event that just is going on? I guess Pac was like, sure, why not? Because you read this, you're like, how the heck does Shang-Chi even know about this woman? Because, like I just mentioned, prior to this first issue of this book, she only appeared in Moon Knight 16. And after this, Avenged Moon Knight, and that was it for her. And then Spider-Man himself shows up. He, of course, has a reason why. Of course, Spider-Man's had a long history with Shang-Chi. Stretching as far back as the 1970s, when they first met in giant-sized Spider-Man. I think it was issue 3 or 4, I think it was. So, this Captain tries to take out Spider-Man, look up basically just a friend. And then we have more stuff here. Spider-Man goes off. He's here briefly. I did just read, apparently, the gang war got a lot of flack for a lack of focus on Spider-Man. It's called gang war. You gotta focus on everybody. Like, in the main story, I do agree with that criticism. The fact that Peter Parker's not gonna have focus in his own book. I do agree with that criticism. Because that is definitely true. So then, of course, then we have apparently Miss Negative show up to attack Chinatown. Except this is later revealed to be not Miss Negative, and somehow Shang-Chi knows him. Well, there's a reason why. We'll get to that. So, he's basically can't move. So, they take the earrings on, freeze, and of course, apparently this is where, this captain who's basically worked for Shang-Chi all this time is all like, yeah, I'm going to murder you and take your job. And you read this, you're like, wait, why the heck is he doing this? And then eventually takes a while to get the 10 rings out. Yes. And that all happens in issue 1. Then Spider-Man loses some territory. The Five still has the same territory Mr. Negative's next to it. Yeah, this whole thing is about, Delilah, who is basically Shang-Chi's girlfriend. Which I think this character was brought in as a loosely based upon the character who appeared in the Shang-Chi movie. Except she was a friend, not his girlfriend. So they're there, and of course he gets shot. He gets shocked by her. Of course he's fine. Spider-Man gets calling Luke Cage, who's sitting in his office, and then we have Lady Young. Looks like Dimeback and Miss Negative having a chat, and it turns out Dimeback is working for frickin' Hydra. Yes, Hydra. You know, the organization founded by frickin' Nazis. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and then the courts take him on, and then after defeating them, and it turns out these people are not who they say they are. They're just imposters. Yeah, they're not the actual ones. So, they're dealing with other stuff, and they kind of have basically where they had Luke Cage pop up here, is like heroes. That's how he does against heroes. Except his group is comprised of Spider-Man, Danny Rand, Tombstone, and She-Hulk. Which, you're thinking, wait a minute, why is Tombstone over here? Better praise for this book. At least it's an issue not drawn by John B. Jr. And it all wraps up in issue 3, where you start with Delilah, and of course you have Shang-Chi ends up fighting the heroes. And then he ends up just taking out some of his own people for some reason, and of course siding with the heroes. And then the stories continue over in the pages of in Amazing Time for Gang War. But we're not there just yet. Nope. Then we have Spider-Man Shang-Chi in the Shaolin Spider-Man book. I'm surprised they couldn't call the Spider-Man Shaolin Spider-Man Shang-Chi. Where basically they take down Mr. Negative, which explains how Shang-Chi knows Mr. Negative. By the way, this issue is written by Dan Slott, which you're thinking, of course Dan Slott write Mr. Negative story, because it's Dan Slott. He seems like to be the only person who can write a Mr. Negative story. Because it seems like almost every single time this guy has shown up in Marvel Comics, who has generally been the writer for this character? Dan Slott. With Placo Sakura on the artwork, yes. Really, it's a really interesting book. We even have like a flashback when Daredevil actually is set during Shadowland, where, yeah, and it's kind of weird though. You have Spider-Man, who does play a role in Shadowland, but yeah, here's the weird thing: he only has his one shot. Not a tie in front of it, not his ongoing series tie into this. Oh, God forbid we actually have his book tied into it. Or I don't know, how about a mini-series? Nope, just one shot where they team up taking much negative. And that's it. And then we get sort of a flash. Then we get cut to the Free Comic Day issue, which came out a year later, which is basically like called Way of the Spider. Now this issue is simply put one simple thing: Shang-Chi teaching Spider-Man Spider-Fu. Yep, while also being dealing with Spider-Man being controlled by the Mandrill. I'm surprised he doesn't have Spider-Man basically make out with him. Yep. This immediately. Oh God, you reek. Dozens of bottles of perfume, my new signature scent. I call it distraction. Jess, is it real you? Yeah, I'm back. And of course, part up Android, and of course, this leads into stuff related to like, I'm an Avenger. Okay then. Yeah. And this is where he just spread their food because. And then we have the Shang-Chi issue 1. This is volume 2, number 1, which is basically like a file Spider-Man prime about the 5-weapon society stuff. And that's it. Now, reading this book, you're like, okay, so you probably think, okay, I get the fact that the Shang-Chi book is here that explains how Spider-Man knows. Like, if you didn't read the Shang-Chi book, that could explain how Spider-Man knows about it. So why the Shadowland Spider-Man one-shot was included in here? Probably because that was the only time when he fought Shang-Chi first on Mr. Negative. And the other one is basically a little story on the story featuring Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man. Shang-Chi has, like, the weird thing is about him is that he's had a very, very loose association with Spider-Man over the years. He's a character who doesn't really interact with him very much. Aside from the giant-sized Spider-Man issue from the 70s, I don't think these two ever interacted again until, like, the 2010s. Yes. My guess is because no writer at Marvel Comics had a desire for these two to team up. Yeah. I personally have a problem with these two team. I think these are fine. I'm surprised they even had a mini-series tied to these two. Yes. Luke Cage kind of has a reason to involve Gang War. I'm glad he got a mini-series. The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. His role in here is weird. Unlike the case of Luke Cage to the Gang War, which that kind of loosely ties into the main events of the book, this is very mildly connected to Gang War. It's like he's neutral to the end of the book. And it's like, The only reason to read this miniseries is to explain why he's in the finale. Because you're like, why would Shang-Chi get involved with gang war? He has his own problems to deal with. Why did he deal with basically New York's problems? Well, because the organization exists in New York, so I guess they figured, though, why not? One thing's got to praise about this event, it's not over-bloated with tie-ins. Yes, there's there's ongoing deal with this. Music, which is the main story, Miles on its way to tie-in, and Spider-Woman, which had tie-in too. And you think, oh, was there any more books tied into it, any ongoings? No. You have basically a bunch of miniseries and a one-shot. It's a very quick event. Yes. It is an event that surprisingly only lasts for roughly 2 months. It is one of the shortest Spider-Man events ever in history of Marvel Comics. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, that's kind of thing with it. Like, you think, okay, so I got Luke Cage, I got Dillian's Kung Fu. For main limited series, there is one left. And you're thinking, which one? Daredevil Gang War. Which book focused on Elektra. Yep. You have that and the Jackpot book. But yeah, this event is... I've gotten this book pretty quickly. Which is kind of surprising. Yeah. Yeah. But not really much else to say about this book. Yeah. So, that is going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. Next up, My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Okay, next video. Bye.